You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hey there, welcome to episode 195 of the Soul Forge podcast.
Welcome to the Soul Forge, a place of silent mystery, quiet contemplation, and outright mayhem. Join your host, Sean Vanderloo, as he guides you through the adventures of living. Together, we'll talk about life and love, sex and dating, joy and heartache, memories and loss, and so much more. Don't worry, it's not nearly as pretentious as it sounds. Get ready for life, the universe, and everything on the Soul Forge.
Hey everybody, it's Sean Vanderloo here with another exciting episode of the Soul Forge. And have I ever got a treat for you? We've had a string of somewhat heavy episodes as of late, and because there's so much sadness in the world, I thought this week we would turn it right around and talk about celebrity crushes from childhood. Before we do, just to get some business out of the way, make sure that you use soulforgepodcast.com as your homepage. All of our social media links are on there. You can find our Twitter link, our Facebook page link, our Instagram link, a place to review us in iTunes, a good way to get to the YouTube channel, the Spotify link, and also the link that if you would like to support us financially, you can. And that's right on the homepage or coffee.com/rustedsoul. Okay, now that's out of the way. Why are we talking about celebrity crushes? Well, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked. This past weekend on the Rusted Robot podcast, I was talking about the Wonder Years being rebooted for modern day television. The original Wonder Years ran from, I believe, 1988 to 1993. That was right in the height of when I was becoming a teenager, I guess. But on episode 329 of Rusted Robot, I had mentioned that I had a major crush on Winnie from that show. And our good buddy Richard from Australia commented and said, well, didn't everybody? And that got me thinking that, you know what, I'm probably not the only one who had a crush on Winnie from the Wonder Years. And so as I thought about it more and more, I was like, let's do an episode on childhood celebrity crushes. And then I thought about it further because Richard had said everybody did. I was like, I should get everybody. I should get everybody on the podcast and see who else people had crushes on when they were kids. You know, anywhere from 5 to 15 years old or whatever. So that's what I did. I put out the call on our Facebook page, and I actually got an email from a listener. That's rare. Nobody ever sends us emails here at Soulforge, so that was awesome. I got a whole pile of responses on Facebook, and I got some voice clips from loyal listeners, and I got some voice clips from some people at work. So I'm just going to string that all together and make you a fun, coherent episode all about childhood crushes on celebrities. That could be TV stars, movie stars, music stars, anything really. Any kind of celebrity. Why not, right? Let's go right into it. So obviously, my number one crush of all time is Winnie Cooper from the Wonder Years, played by Danica McKellar. Not sure if I've ever mentioned it on the podcast or not before, but after my marriage fell apart, the first girl I dated was named Corinne, and she actually looked quite a bit like Winnie Cooper. It would have been an awesome relationship had I been in the right mental space. Since it was right after the marriage fell apart, I was in no way, shape, or form ready for a serious relationship, so I, of course, messed that up, but that's a topic for another day. What does that say about me as a person? Well, let's think about it. When I was 12 years old, when the show came out, I think she was around the same age. Those people were all around the same age, the actors. She was brunette, she had chubby cheeks and intense eyes, and I'm going to call her a squirrel girl. And why am I doing that? Because she has those intense eyes and those cute chubby cheeks, which seem to be a theme for me for my celebrity crushes. Actually, I wrote some of those down, so let's see about the squirrel girls before we get into some listener comments. So who did I have here on the list? Of course, we had Winnie from the Wonder Years. I've got DJ, played by Candace Cameron from Full House. If it wasn't Winnie, it was DJ. Those were my top two crushes when I was I'm going to say a teenager or a child or whatever. But not only those two were chubby-cheeked, good-looking girls. We also had Tiffany Amber Thiessen, who played Kelly on Saved by the Bell. We had Shannon Doherty, who played Brenda on Beverly Hills 90210. Topanga from Boy Meets World, which will be a recurring theme, actually, from our listener feedback. Candy from Candy and the Backbeat, which was an obscure singing group back in the day. Let's also, and you're going to judge me for this one, I used to watch Designing Women with my grandmother, and I thought that Delta Burke was a very good-looking woman. So there you have it, Delta Burke. Delta Burke and the chubby-faced brunettes, the squirrel girls, as I like to call them. But let's hear from one of our listeners. Let's see here. I've got a whole pile of them here. Why don't I read the email from Carl, who emailed us at soulforgepodcast@gmail.com. And Carl says, hey there, I've got my celebrity crushes. We've got Danielle Fishel, and that, of course, is Topanga from Boy Meets World. Amy Jo Johnson, who played the Pink Ranger on the original Power Rangers. And I've got to say, yes, Amy Jo Johnson, the Pink Ranger, was very good looking. It's true. We've got Christina Applegate, who played Kelly Bundy on Married with Children. And I don't know if she was cute. I was never a huge fan, but I can get behind that. We've also got Amy Dumas, or Lita, from the WWE. So those are Carl's celebrity crushes from childhood. Thanks, Carl, for that. Appreciate it. Send emails anytime. We've got a recurring theme, like I said, of Danielle Fishel, or Topanga, from Boy Meets World. Now, I never actually watched that show. I saw it in passing when my brother Curtis would watch it, because I think it was his favorite show when he was younger. Actually, I did talk to Curtis about his celebrity crushes, and he had two. And of course, we had Topanga and Kelly from Saved by the Bell, Tiffany Amber Thiessen. So yeah, a recurring theme there once again. Actually, let's listen to a voice clip from Luke from the post office.
I'm Luke from Canada Post. I'm talking about my celebrity crushes as a childhood. I'd say Topanga from Boys Meets World would probably be one of them. I'm trying to remember the name of the girl from Starship Troopers. I think she's married to Charlie Sheen at one point.
Denise Richards.
Yes, that would have been the other one that was probably head over heels as a kid for. That's about it.
And once again, there you go. We had Topanga and Denise Richards, who we know from, like he mentioned, married to Charlie Sheen in Starship Troopers. She was the quote-unquote bad girl from Wild Things with Neve Campbell, who is also, I'm going to say, a brunette squirrel girl. She's got her own chubby cheeks and her intense eyes, and yeah, oh boy, with Party of Five, that's the only reason I watched that show, actually, so there you go. Who else do we got here? Well, I talked about Brother Curtis. Let's talk about Brother Robin. He sent in a clip as well, so I'll play that right now.
Celebrity crushes from childhood. I'm Brother Robin, and on this week's episode of the Soul Forge podcast, it's all about celebrity crushes from childhood. Well, when I was a boy, my first love, of course, was rescuing the princess from Bowser. Princess Peach was number one, followed by Hello, Nurse. And how could we forget about April from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Oh, but you mean real celebrities. Well, of course there were a few. Pam Anderson, of course, was one. The Spice Girls, all of them, but especially Ginger Spice. Britney Spears, when she debuted, was one. And I have to give honorable mentions to Melissa Joan Hart from Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Larissa Oleynik from The Secret World of Alex Mack, and you can never forget about Sunny from the WWF. Oh boy, sunny days for sure.
Robin's a bit of a funny guy. Princess Peach from Mario, the Hello Nurse from the Animaniacs, and April O'Neil from the Turtles. All, of course, cartoons or pixelated creatures. And yeah, I think people of my generation and a little bit younger all had crushes on April O'Neil. They certainly weren't into Irma, but he also had Pam Anderson, who was definitely all over posters back in the day. The Spice Girls, yes, definitely. I always had trouble figuring out which Spice Girl I liked the best. Jerry was definitely one, Ginger Spice, of course. And then it was either a toss-up between Baby Spice or Posh Spice, because, I do like my brunettes. But I also liked Baby because she's a squirrel girl, even though she's blonde. Who else did he have on the list? He had Britney Spears, and I've got to get behind that too, although I was older when she came out. Melissa Joan Hart from Sabrina, definitely, I agree with that. Sunny from the WWF or the WWE or whatever it is. I don't know who that is. And Larissa, whatever, from The Secret World of Alex Mack. I'd never even heard of that show, so whatever. But thanks for that clip, Robin. Very good. Just looking through my own list, I used to watch All My Children with my mother. That was her favorite soap opera. And in the summers, I would watch it with her. And there were two actresses from that show that I had major crushes on. Kelly Ripa played Haley, I believe, and Sarah Michelle Gellar played Susan Lucci's daughter. I think her name was Kendall on the show, and she had brown hair. She had dyed her hair brown for that role. I was obsessed with Sarah Michelle Gellar for quite some time. However, surprise of surprises, I never watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer just because I thought somebody was attractive or I had a celebrity crush. Doesn't mean I was going to watch their show if I didn't care about it. So is that a unique thing? I don't know. I had posters of her. I had all kinds of stuff, but I didn't care to watch the show, I guess. All right, let's see who else we've got here. Why don't we play a voice clip from another person from work? We've got Chantal, and this is exciting for the podcast. This is a SoulForge podcast exclusive. I've been trying to get Chantal on the podcast for years, and she's refused at every turn, but this time I begged her, and so let's see what Chantal has to say.
Hi, I'm Chantal. My childhood celebrity crushes were Corey Hart, Bon Jovi, and Johnny Depp. Bon Jovi is still my crush.
Okay, Corey Hart, Sunglasses at Night, Bon Jovi, and Johnny Depp. And she still likes Bon Jovi, so that's a long-lasting celebrity crush. Thanks for that information, Chantal. I can't relate to any of those because those are dudes, but I can certainly understand why. All right, looking at my list a little bit further here, what else have we got? Actually, a few weeks ago, we had Heather on the program, and I asked her about her celebrity crushes, and she didn't have very many to talk about, but she did mention Jordan Knight from the New Kids on the Block. And as I was talking to people at work this last couple days about this, the New Kids did come up quite a bit, actually. And what else have we got here on my list? Let's see. Oh, here's something. Growing up, I watched a lot of Star Trek, the original series, and Star Trek is known for its beautiful guest actresses. And in one particular episode called What Are Little Girls Made Of?, Sherry Jackson plays Andrea the Android. And I thought Andrea the Android was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen in my entire life. If you haven't seen What Are Little Girls Made Of?, just Google it, and you'll probably see the image of William Shatner's Kirk holding up the penis rock as he hides from Ruck, the tall android. That episode is kind of funny for that. Did he know he was holding a penis rock? It's just a rock that he pulls off the wall, and he's going to attack the guy, but it looks like a penis, and I don't know why they even allowed that, but it's funny. So moving right along, my buddy Renee, he didn't send me a voice clip, but we talked a little bit over texting, and his list includes Nicole Eggert from Charles in Charge. Yep, she was gorgeous. Another one on my list is Alyssa Milano from Who's the Boss, definitely. He also had Candace Cameron from Full House. He had Kelly Williams from Family Matters, and I agree with that. And he also had Christina Applegate from Married with Children, which seems to be a common occurrence, so that is excellent as well. Before we continue on with the list of celebrity crushes from me and other people, why don't we go ahead and play a promo for another podcast right here on the ESO Network.
Hey everyone, this is George Tripsis, co-host from the Metal Geeks podcast, along with Carrie, the Metal Geek, and Brutal Dave. Our show is where we bring the metal geek culture and heavy metal culture and mash it into the geek culture. Come listen to our show where we talk about movies, comic books, Disney stuff, and mostly about movies where I'm always right and Carrie's never right. Check us out at metalgeeks.net and catch us on all your ear-hole listening podcast devices.
I'm Carrie the Metal Geek, and I approve this message.
Okay, that was awesome. If you're not checking out the Metal Geeks podcast, what are you even doing with your life, right? Totally. Okay. All right, let's see what else we got here on my list. I'm going to say that I got an overwhelming response from people on Facebook. I put the call out for celebrity crushes on the Soulforge Facebook page, and we got the email from Carl, and then I put it on my personal page, and oh boy, did it ever blow up my notification list. So I'm just going to scroll through and read out some of the people and who they had a crush on. So Whit, who has been a frequent guest on this podcast, said Baby Spice from the Spice Girls was his. Yep, definitely. Sarah V said Viggo Mortensen. Of course, we all know he played Aragorn in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I could get behind that. That's a handsome, handsome man right there. And let's see who we got. Mike, the head of the ESO network, said Jane Weidlin of the Go-Go's. Dakota, who is my stepdaughter of sorts, my son's older sister, she says, I really loved Zac Efron until my mom turned around and called him really hot. So I guess Dakota didn't think Zac Efron was hot anymore when her mom also thought the same thing, and they're 25 years apart. So there's that. Paul Wright, my co-host over on the Cosmic Pizza podcast, and I've actually got a clip from him. So I'm going to actually play that right now.
Hey Sean, so you were asking about teenage crushes. Well, I had two teenage crushes. One was Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman from the 1970s TV series. That was the only thing I ever saw her in, and I thought she was absolutely fabulous. But then again, I was only young. What do I know? I did get a chance to meet up with her. She was in a Liverpool Comic Con a couple of years ago. I managed to have my photograph taken with her. She seemed very nice, but I didn't get much of a chance to talk to her. Just went in, had the photograph, and walked back out again. She was pretty good, still looking good. We were both obviously a little bit older, so neither of us were in our prime, but she's still a good-looking woman. So my second crush was on Heather Locklear from TJ Hooker and various other films and TV series. I've not really seen much of her since, but she was always a good-looking woman then. Had the hots for her, certainly, and she's the only woman I've ever had a poster on the wall. She's also somebody I use as an inspiration if I'm reading a book and there's a blonde woman spoken about. I normally use her as my image. Okay, that's it. Thanks very much. I will be interested to hear who other people have as teenage crushes. Speak soon.
And we've got Lindsay Wagner and Heather Locklear. And I never watched The Bionic Woman, and I never watched TJ Hooker, but I did see her in Melrose Place. And I guess she's attractive. I never had an obsession with her. That's okay. Let's see who else we've got on the Facebook thing here. And of course, we've got Daniel Peter Hitch, my other co-host on the Cosmic Pizza podcast. And we'll get to his clip in a little bit. Then our good friend Davis, the local comic book artist here in town, said his crush was the Sorceress from Masters of the Universe. So another cartoon, just like Brother Robin, which is awesome. We've got Steve from the A Play on Nerds podcast. He also said Tiffany Amber Thiessen, or Kelly from Saved by the Bell, and also the entire female cast of Charmed. Let's see, we got Trisha, who is Dakota's mom and my son's mom. She said John Taylor from Duran Duran, but not the drummer. Also Simon Le Bon, Billy Idol, George Michael. She loved them all and plastered her walls with posters of them. And then we've got Dave, who is Renee's cousin, and he just posted a picture of Tony and Sam from Who's the Boss, and he made sure to point out not Tony Danza. So I'm going to assume that he also had a crush on Alyssa Milano, like a lot of us did. Let's see, we've got Jarman. He is the other co-host on the A Play on Nerds podcast, and his list includes the Pink Ranger from Power Rangers, of course, Amy Jo Johnson. He's got Mila Jovovich from Fifth Element, Jodie Foster from Contact, Carmen Electra, and Liv Tyler from Empire Records. And I have to say, I totally agree with Jarman about Jodie Foster. I had a huge crush on her. I don't know if you've ever watched the Disney program. I think there was maybe two of them, but one was called Candlestick, and she was some kind of an orphan. I don't remember all the details on that because I haven't seen that in probably about 30 years, but I watched it so many times as a kid.
Correction. The name of the film was Candleshoe and came out in 1977.
And just because Jodie Foster's a lesbian doesn't mean I wasn't attracted to her. You know that I frequently fall in love with lesbians. Episode 31 of this podcast will give you all the details on that specific incident. We've got Julie, not my fiance Julie, but Julie, the co-owner of the local comic book shop, Jump City Comics here in town, she said Robin, when he was dating Barbara in Batman the Animated Series, he did Parker gymnastics and had a cool hairstyle. So cartoons again. She also said Han Solo and Indiana Jones, so she must have a thing for Harrison Ford. And then she went on to say Brendan Fraser from The Mummy and Mulder from The X-Files. And of course, I think we all had a crush on Scully. Gillian Anderson. And then she also said Angel and Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and in her next post she said, "This is easily a podcast on its own. Each episode could be about a different pop culture character and why there's such an infatuation." And I have to say that I totally agree with that. Okay, so there's still more to go on the Facebook list, but I have to play another voice clip from somebody, so let's play a clip from Jen.
Hi, my name is Jen, and my 3 crushes from childhood are from Saved by the Bell, Zach and Slater, and Aries from Hercules.
All right, thanks for that, Jen. Zach and Slater from Saved by the Bell, and Aries from Hercules. Now, I know Hercules and Xena and all those shows were big and popular back in the day, and we all had a thing for Xena, Lucy Lawless. But yeah, Zach and Slater, more Saved by the Bell celebrities, definitely. What else we got here on the list? Let's go back to the Facebook page. Sarah N has a picture or a GIF of what's her name? Rona Mitra, I think, from the Underworld series, and also a picture of Nicolas Cage from Con Air.
Sorry, no. I meant to say Kate Beckinsale from the Underworld series.
Yep, one of my all-time favorite movies, and that's a good-looking man right there in that movie specifically. So yeah, I get behind Nicolas Cage. Any more on the Facebook list? Let's take a quick look here. Okay, and it looks like we've got some late-breaking additions to the list that I posted on my Facebook wall. It tells me that David, another David, he said, "My first ever celebrity crush was on Diane Parkinson from The Price is Right, and Stacey Mistison, who played Caitlin on Degrassi. And Jeremy Wilcox, who you know from the Fandom Squad podcast, also claims Jessica Alba as his childhood crush." And I've got a text here from Krista, and she's got quite the list of crushes from childhood. She tells us that she was interested in Keanu Reeves, Andrew Keegan, Hugh Grant, Luke Perry, Brendan Fraser, Johnny Depp, Tim Curry, specifically as the devil in the movie Legend, Jonathan Brandis, Antonio Banderas, Edward Furlong, Devon Sawa, and Jonathan Taylor Thomas, much like several other people as well. Awesome. Great list, gang. Appreciate it immensely. Lauren said JTT, and I had to ask who that was. She said it's Jonathan Taylor Thomas from Home Improvement. And actually several people had mentioned him when I was talking to them in passing, so definitely. So thanks for that, Lauren. You may recognize that name or remember her from episode 49 of this podcast. And we've also got Tammy saying Hall & Oates, but more in a parental way. I'm not sure what that means, but okay. My good friend Amanda says she had crushes on Drew Barrymore and Joey McIntyre from New Kids on the Block. Sarah N also has a gif of Jessica Alba from Sin City. So that's quite the list that people have. I was overwhelmed by the response, and I thank you guys all for commenting on that. That's awesome. Hey, let's play another voice clip from somebody here.
It's all good. Hey, I'm Ian from the post office. Work with Sean. When I was a kid, I remember having a little crush on Penny from Inspector Gadget and Betty and Veronica from Archie Comics. And the ladies of G.I. Joe, too, I would say.
Yes, there we go. We've got Ian from the post office. And he liked Penny from Inspector Gadget, because who wouldn't like her? She had a computer book and a talking dog. That's pretty awesome. Betty and Veronica from the Archies, and of course the girls from G.I. Joe. And of course we all had crushes on Scarlet and Lady J and the Baroness. Of course we did. Definitely. All right. What else have I got on my list here? Let's see. So I've talked about Winnie and DJ. I talked about Jodie Foster. I never mentioned Six from Blossom. Jenna Von Oy. I didn't have a thing for Blossom, Maya Bialik, but definitely Six. She was gorgeous. I would say she's also a squirrel girl. We had Jo from The Facts of Life. There were 4 girls on that, and Jo was kind of a motorcycle driving badass. Another brunette, of course, and I followed her career even out of childhood. There was just something about her. I just really liked her. Also on the list was Marianne from Gilligan's Island. Never had a thing for Ginger, of course. I was going to talk about the Brady Bunch, but I never had a crush on any of those girls. All of them had hair of gold, like their mother, the youngest one in curls. Oh, another one, Janet from Three's Company. Never had a thing for Chrissy or any other guest stars, but Janet. Even though she was probably 20 or 30 years older than me when I was watching the show back in the day. I don't know, I was in love with Janet from Three's Company. Okay. Here's a story that I had almost forgotten. I had a huge thing for Brooke Shields in the movie Blue Lagoon. As I was thinking about all these crushes and stuff for the podcast, I was thinking I had just seen her on a commercial for something. I'm like, oh yeah, Brooke Shields, Blue Lagoon. It came out on TV September 1988 when I had just turned 12. I think the movie had come out in like 1982 or something, but it was making its television premiere or something. I don't remember. I was 12. That's 32 years ago. But I remember watching the film, being absolutely mesmerized. And then for weeks and weeks, I would count down how many days it had been since I'd seen Blue Lagoon. I drove my mom crazy. I said, it's been 3 days since I saw Blue Lagoon, because I was absolutely obsessed. I haven't even seen the movie since then. I should go back and revisit it. Also on the list is, Alyssa Milano, Sam from Who's the Boss, Robin Givens from Head of the Class, Janet Jackson, Tiffany Amber Thiessen, singer Alanis. Alanis Morissette came out in 1991 with the song Too Hot. I was absolutely freaking obsessed. Speaking of singers, let's listen to what Isabella has to say.
Hi, I'm Isabella from the post office. My childhood crushes were Michael J. Fox, John Travolta, and the band Motley Crue.
Okay, so she had a thing for Michael J. Fox. We all know him from Family Ties and Back to the Future. And I was thinking, I watched Family Ties back in the day. Did I have a crush on Mallory? She was a pretty good-looking brunette, but she was too much older than I was, and she played a ditz. I think I liked intelligence, so I didn't really care. I do remember wanting to be like Michael J. Fox's Alex P. Keaton because he seemed to have everything together. He had too much politics for my liking, but yeah. And she also liked John Travolta and Motley Crue. So that's a pretty good, well-rounded list of celebrities that I can get behind. Going back to my list, we had Shannon Doherty, who played Brenda on 90210. I didn't care for the blonde girls, but definitely I was a Brenda fan. I also liked Dana Plato, who played Kimberly on Different Strokes. I've got Bailey from WKRP in Cincinnati. Didn't really care for Lonnie Anderson. And then I was thinking about the Dukes of Hazzard, and I didn't really have a major crush on Daisy Duke. I know she was all the rage back in the day, but I think I was too young to care. I think actually now might be a good time to play Dan's list.
Hello, Sean and the fellow Soulforgians. I think we're calling ourselves that, aren't we? I saw the post on Facebook about the topic for this week's show about childhood crushes, boyhood crushes in my case. So I thought I'd record something and send it in. It depends what age I am when I'm thinking of which crush I had. There are quite a few. When I'm really thinking about it. But my earliest one I can think of is probably Topanga from Boy Meets World. She was everything. She was the girl next door. She was crazy but funny. She was always willing to put Corey in his place and let him know when he wasn't doing the right thing. She was strong, feisty, everything that you would want in a girlfriend at the time. Admittedly, I was watching the show when I was probably about 6, 7, now I'm thinking about it. So, when you see a whole relationship, that show went on for so long. But I felt like you grew up with Topanga, so Topanga was always there. She will always be there for you. As I get older and obviously hormones start kicking in, things start to change, and obviously the movies that I'm watching are also a lot different as well. Another one of the crushes that I had would have been Tia Carrere's Cassandra from Wayne's World. She was kick-ass, she was in a band, and like Garth says, she makes me feel kind of funny, like when we climbed the rope in gym class. So obvious reasons really for Cassandra. Then as I'm getting a little bit older after that and I'm watching some crazier films, The Craft comes in, and lo and behold, there are 4 beautiful women who are, again, feisty, strong, independent ladies. So all 4 of the stars of the film The Craft. So you've got Robin Tunney, you've got Fairuza Balk, you've got Neve Campbell, and of course Rachel True. Neve Campbell obviously then goes on to Scream, so you kind of see her from there. Fairuza Balk though, Nancy, I had a big thing for goths, and I probably still do. Don't tell my wife. But The Craft was definitely a turning point for 12-year-old me. It really then goes on to my other love as I'm watching more TV shows, and that is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But it's not Sarah Michelle Gellar. Oh no. It is the lady that I refer to as my future wife, in no way creepy at all, and that is Alison Hannigan. I have a huge crush on not only Willow, her character Willow, other characters she's played, whether it be American Pie, whether it be How I Met Your Mother, whether there's other things that I've seen her in. Alison Hannigan is probably the crush that has lasted the longest for me. But that is probably my top spot for all of my childhood, boyhood crushes. So signing off, this is Daniel Peter Hitch signing off from the Cosmic Pizza Podcast, which is a show I host with someone called Sean Vanderloo and Paul Wright. Looking forward to hearing everybody's choices. I will see you later, Sean.
Okay, once again, Topanga. Thanks for that, Dan. Tia Carrere from Wayne's World. I watched Relic Hunter because of her, actually. The girls from The Craft, and of course he mentioned Neve Campbell, who is one of my all-time favorite Squirrel Girls, and Alison Hannigan, which I can totally get behind. I watched How I Met Your Mother because of her. She was the best part of the American Pie movies, and of course she's a redhead, which, as you know, I have been partial to, but they get you in trouble, so I try to avoid those. So thanks for that, Dan. That was awesome. And do I have anybody else to talk about? Let's see. I think I've played everybody's voice clip, and if I haven't, I'll play another one right here, and if not, then I'll just go back to my list. Let's see. Okay, so we've got, at the bottom of the list, which I've already talked about, is the chubby-faced brunettes, which I call Squirrel Girls, Delta Burke, Topanga, Tiffany Amber Thiessen, Winnie, DJ, and they all, and Candy and the Backbeat, and I guess they're all very similar to Selena Gomez. She's got that same look, the puffy lips, the chubby cheeks, and she's brunette. Just something that I really like about that. I can't explain it. I don't know what it is. I'll just move on. Let's see, what else did I want to say about these people? Well, let's see. There was also singers that I had on my list. Vanessa Williams, Alanis, Candy, Janet Jackson, Madonna. Lisa Lougheed, who sang the theme song for The Raccoons. Do you remember that cartoon from the mid to late 80s, The Raccoons? That was an awesome show that I watched a lot, and the soundtrack was amazing, and she actually put out a video and had some other songs, and I used to tape music videos back in the 90s, so I didn't actually pull those out and look at who was on the list, but I'm sure I'm forgetting all kinds of different people from my childhood. But just looking through here, I didn't mention my friend Natalie. She has been trying to get on this podcast for about 6 months, but she lives about an hour and a half from here, so we haven't had a chance. But she commented on the Facebook page and said, Kevin from the Backstreet Boys, JTT, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, just like Lauren had said. She also liked The Rock, and apparently Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. Well, my brother liked Princess Peach from Mario, so I guess that makes a lot of sense. So there's quite a list of different celebrities that people have been in love with. Also on the list here is, speaking of brunettes, the brunette from the Trident commercial I had written down. And who the heck is that? I don't know. In the early 90s, maybe it was the late 80s, there was a Trident gum commercial. And this brunette walks into a laundromat. And she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. And I think it had something to do with her piercing blue eyes. I've tried to find this commercial over the years on YouTube and whatnot, and I've never been able to do that. But if anybody has seen that commercial, remembers it, whatever, I would love to see it again, just to refresh my memory. And rounding out the list, back in the fall of 1990, I went to the It store and picked up a calendar, and it was just had a pretty girl on it. I didn't know who she was. Turned out it was a 16-month calendar for Cindy Crawford. And as I found out who Cindy Crawford was in my 14-year-old brain, boy, oh boy, I followed everything that I could find about her, and that was awesome. Oh, Paula Abdul. I forgot about her. She's another squirrel girl. There's so many. I didn't actually research online any of the stuff. I was going to do a whole in-depth singers from the 80s and TV shows from the 80s and movies from the 80s, but I never bothered. It's just better to remember it and come with it as a stream of consciousness. And looking at my list, I think that's it. I think that's it for the show, gang. I was going to mention Tracy Gold from Growing Pains, but I never really had a crush on her. There was lots of shows like that I watched back in the day. So what does this tell about all of us as individuals? Well, it basically says that we all worship celebrity, and no wonder they're so highly paid, because we all worship at the altar of their beauty, I guess. I don't know. There's no significance to this episode. There's no life lessons, no moral quandaries. It's just a fun, lighthearted episode talking about celebrities that me and all of you loved when we were kids. Next week, I have got a special treat for you if the scheduling works out. Now, normally I don't talk about what's coming up in the podcast, but for the last month and a half, I've been trying to get Alice Little on the podcast. And who is that, speaking of crushes? Well, she's beautiful, and she is, wait for it, the highest paid sex worker in the United States. And I reached out to her a while back, and the scheduling hasn't worked out, and hopefully it will for this time. We're going to have an Alice Little interview / conversation, all about all kinds of fun stuff, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you go to soulforgepodcast.com for all of our social media links. Share this episode with all your friends. Leave a review in the podcatcher of your choice. And until next time, remember, fall in love with a weird one, someone not quite right in the head. Life is far more interesting when love is odd. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Soul Forge Podcast. Your support is greatly appreciated, and we hope you'll tune in again next time. Remember that you can visit soulforgepodcast.com for all of our social media links, and don't forget to share the show with everyone you know. The Soul Forge Podcast is your best source for living your best life.
Think about it.
It's a funny one, but it was Tom Selleck. I loved Tom Selleck with the moustache, 3 Men and a Baby.
My first celebrity crush was Reese Witherspoon.
I was really into River Phoenix, and then I was really into Johnny Depp, sort of at the same time. 21 Jump Street, Johnny Depp.
Mm-hmm.
Like posters of him holding puppies on my walls.
Danny Zuko. Yeah, John Travolta.
She's a British TV presenter called Mariella Frostrop. I just was completely intoxicated by her.
Shitara in the Thundercats, she was kind of hot.
A few, yeah. I wasn't particularly loyal as a young boy. I think probably Carrie Fisher in Star Wars. I wanted to be Harrison Ford, and that was definitely one of the reasons I wanted to be Harrison Ford.
Leonardo DiCaprio in Romeo and Juliet.
It was Jessica Lange, because I saw King Kong. I wrote her name in every font on the computer. And then I got to do a movie with her, and I was like, just don't tell her. Just wait at least a day before you tell her. And like within 30 seconds, I was like, I was so obsessed with you, I wrote your name in every font. She didn't mind.
Sam from Who's the Boss. Yeah, that was it.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.